time? No, given that we kicked 12 goals. We were confident of a competitive last quarter, Steve. Yep, no doubt. But you can't predict the scoreboard.
Did you sense amongst the playing group a real resolve when you were out there?
Yeah, I did, which is clearly easy to tell you now. But I think coaches try not to give too many pointers at the quarter time breaks because we know that, I don't know, I think the theory book says once you get over 5 points, you're in trouble, you're not going to remember much. Things that I spoke to the boys about at 3/4 time, there was a little bit about the style that we needed to keep going, so a little bit about the game style, and we spoke about that. That was just reinforcing it, and that's the simple stuff because that just reinforces how we train. I certainly made mention to them about the spirit that the player group has shown over the last however long, and I know that you guys, when I tell you, some people choose for whatever they laugh or whatever it is. The spirit that these boys shown, to keep coming to training and to train, and they understand that it's a development phase, of seriously rebuilding a football club. They get all that. So I touched on we've got 30 minutes here, to work the way we've been working in training and really dig deep for the spirit. Certainly touched on, during the week we went back and had a look at some of the fitness work, just to reinforce some of the stuff that in particular Dave Misson talks to them about how much and how quick and how we're building and these levels. And look, in that situation, we also touched on the fact that for the crowd, our supporters, they weren't, it wasn't a massive crowd, but they certainly made some noise, and we talked about that, it's easier for the player group and the coaches to see things because it happens day to day. So we can see things changing, and then we see the hard work that the boys are putting in, and the supporters, don't get to see that, understand that. So we talked a little bit about it. It's been difficult to be a Melbourne supporter here. We've got 30 minutes. They'll get behind us. They're a really passionate group. So they were the things that we talked about. So from that, Steve, when they look back, they're a resilient bunch of young boys, and we felt in the last quarter that the young boys kept going, and again, the idea of experience, and it's not all that often, if at all. I think it'll happen. Today might be the only time for the year that we take the ground with more experience, but there's you watch games of footy, and I know a lot of commentaries about run-ons. Well, out there in that last quarter, guys like Nathan Jones and Sylvia and Mark Jamo and Colin Garland and the two captains, they're actually almost the most experienced players on the ground. That's what happens, and once you get a run on it, it's hard to stop.
Mark, did a lot of people in 3/4 time have been nervous, worried about what might happen if this thing on? How did you feel?
Yeah, no, well, again, that internally, see, that's the external perception versus the internal reality, and what we're after is, consistent improvement over time, and there's going to be ups and downs, and again, constant communication within the club. We know exactly, where we are. The people at our footy club at the moment are part of a massive rebuild. We've restructured the football department, recruiting department. The player list has got 14 new players. We're fully aware where we're at, and it was never built up internally as, it's anything other than here's another opportunity to get out and let's work on the things we're working on. So that's where we sat, and that's driven by, by Don, by Craigie, by all the senior people at the football club.
Mark, was it even more special considering what happened Thursday night and the getting involved in the supplement issue, etc.? Was that even more important to do what you did today?
I don't know about the more special. I think from my point of view, the most pleasing thing is that there's some external people that were at the ground that saw what we see at training, and it's so hard to explain. Like, we go and sit in player meetings and leadership meetings, and we see that each time they get a little bit better. And so, for example, you don't get to sit with Trenners and Grimesy as they articulate to their teammates where we're going and how you go about it. So for me, the most pleasing thing was, last week we thought we played well for a half against the Eagles. We were relatively pleased with our start here. Clearly, really pleased with the way we finished off, because we know that GWS are the talent that they have is amazing, and obviously you don't want to give those lads too much oxygen early to get their tails up. That's really the most pleasing thing for me.
How did you keep your nerve going into that 3-beat time? What do you draw on in those situations?
Again, Pete, I said that the messages that I gave, but in terms of keeping, calm, competitive sports not for emotional decisions. It's for stay the course. Surrounded by some pretty good people. I'm surrounded by some really good people, and the assistant coaches and Neil Craig's role. Those guys are all in the box. They have. We have our own, and this is not unique to the Melbourne Football Club. There's 17 other clubs that do very similar things. You have your own mini little game plan that you go through. You're watching this, this is the feedback, these are the targets. That's how you do it. So the messages come down, and it's got a boring old stuff that the world hates and you guys never write because it doesn't sell the papers. Stick to the process, stick to the plan. And that's what we do. It's not as exciting as what people think working inside a footy club, Pete.
Was there a moment where you got to enjoy it then before the final sign?
No.
This is great.
No, the moment that I enjoyed it, I suppose the people that were in the rooms, you would have seen that was a bit of a whole club thing when we closed the doors, and it was pretty much the whole player list, the board, the staff, as many staff that could fit in there. I think we are. Well, the players in particular, there's a lot of hard work. So that little song that we sang in there, sing the club song, that wasn't for, in my opinion, wasn't for public viewing. That was just something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed that for 30 seconds, and then I had to remind the assistant coaches that Brisbane are playing North Melbourne at Etihad, so get in your cars and get there because we've got them next week. That's the way it works.
Jack, what does it mean for the playing group, given where you were at 3/4 time, the start you had on field this season, and you started stuff emerging late in the week? How's the sort of group feeling about it right now?
I think Neeld, you summed it up pretty well. We always knew that we were capable of that sort of performance in the last quarter, and it's the way we've trained throughout the whole pre-season up to this date. And as he sort of said, we always knew that we were internally capable of it. I'm not sure if anyone else did, but the important thing is that we knew, and that was just showing it a bit out there in that last quarter. And you got to take confidence with that to show that we can come from being down. And people might say, look, GWS are a young and inexperienced side, but they really took it to us. And at the end of the day, you have to go out there and do it. And we were able to do it today, and that's something that we're going to take into the following weeks.
Mark, 83 tackles today. How significant is that number?
Well, I didn't know that number till you just told me. I think for us, we tend to work on differential, the difference between the two sides. I know we had a positive differential for the majority of the day. The actual number, because it depends nowadays on the style of play that each particular side brings to the table. So that's what we looked on. So I was more concerned with the positive differential. It meant that we were able to keep more pressure on GWS, and because we knew how important that was, we know how skillful all their players are. So it was more about we need to have more effective tackles than they do.
Yes, Mitch Hart.
Yeah, Mitch is good. So Mitch didn't play the last quarter, and he has a foot sprain, and he'll get a precautionary scan on that. So you guys are going, well, I wonder if it's the same foot as his Liz Frank, and what does foot sprain mean? Well, yes, it's the same foot as his Liz Frank thing, so you don't have to go digging for that. But the medicos tell me that it's a separate type of thing, because I think it was round 2, he rolled his ankle and it's all in the one area. So better, certainly with Mitch, clearly much better to be safe. At the end of the game, well, halfway through the last quarter, we said, no, put him on ice, let it go.
How rock were you marked by those text messages that were there in public?
I haven't seen
The dank messages?
Didn't see him, mate. Didn't see him. I can't. I'd like to be honest. The one thing I can say, I did not see those text messages. I didn't watch the 7:30 report. But Steve, I can't comment on that. All I'm going to say there is, I'm really confident in the people that run that side of our footy club and the processes that we've got in place. You guys are going to have to. I know you'll ask those questions. We've got to respect the fact that we can't answer them. But I'm like everybody else. We support the investigation. through ASADA and through the AFL, and make sure that everybody who's playing our sport is right on top of that stuff. And if there's people starting to creep in, well, let's get them out.
You saying you had no knowledge of it whatsoever until Thursday?
No, I can't. I just said, please. I know that you guys are trying to do your job. We can't comment on it. I've given the answers I'm going to give. I'm confident in the club's processes. Let's support the investigation, and let's have an investigation. I think it will take quite a considerable length of time. And again, I respect your role within the industry, but I'm not going to jump into the speculation. I'm going to go again. And I know that you guys will dress the same question up. You'll answer 5 or 6, 7, 8 different ways. And the answer is going to be, listen, trust the people that are there, aware of what our club's processes and systems are. We welcome the investigation, let's support it, let's wait for their findings and go from there. And that's all we can say.
Government certainly ignores the revelations for the preparation of today.
For the coaching staff, none. We had the group, I think Josh, Marnie and Craigie spoke to the group, took about 5 minutes. It was a summary of pretty much what I just said. And then footy clubs are like, really like the companies that you guys work for. Everybody knows what they've got to do. You guys gather, research, bring your people, write your stories, and other people put them in the paper. Our job is to get training and work with these boys and continue to get going. So that doesn't really impact.
How will you handle the distractions going forward though, Mark? I mean, there's going to be key players, staff, yourself are going to be interviewed. We saw James Hird miss a training session this week. Is it hard to handle going forward, all the distractions it might bring?
No, I doubt it, Julian. We just, again, I'll trot out the know your role, play your role, and that's where it's at. Senior coaches, if it means you miss a training session, I've got 3 assistant coaches, 3 development coaches. They're all extremely competent. I reckon Craigie, pretty useful. He might be able to take a training session if I'm not around, if that's what it takes, and I'll look after him if he's going to go and speak to him. So that's a bit, that's how you handle it. We got, although again, our club doesn't have as many staff as some of the others, but we've got enough. We'll be all right.
What do you think of next quarter's going to
Now that bit, Pete, I did enjoy. Everyone has a story, a great story. He's come back from 2 knee recos, and then just before we went away to Darwin, I think he was going along really well from his knee reco. Then he rips his hamstring off his bone, and when you're 208 centimetres, a relatively large hamstring, so that has to get attached. The fact that he's now played 5 games of footy in a row is a great result. And at the end of the game, I said to the boys in there, and he's a character, Max. He's not your. Well, I've got to be careful here. I don't want to give a headline, but he's not your 2013 normal prototype footballer. Bit of a lad, Max, and the impact that he had on these blokes. When they knew earlier in the week that he was playing, it was terrific. And at the end of the game, if you're 208 centimetres, you don't shrink, Pete, and that was evident. It was great for him. He's got to go well next week, though. Would be the coach line. It's good for you, Max. So think about that, no doubt. No, Max, he's another one. There's a few of the young blokes that, I reckon they've found that packet of confidence that I talk about. So Max will go home and watch his 2 goals and come back to the club, and someone will have a go at him because he walked in smiling, and he'll probably already have a song to it, I reckon, Max, by the time we get home, but he won't show me, and that's what he's like, Pete. So I enjoyed that bit. Good on him.
Just a comment on, I think Michael, this was quite interesting that last quarter. It seemed to sort of almost be the difference in that final term. To see his performance.
Yeah, like you. He was good. A fit little fella, Michael. He's another one who's got a good story. Long-term injury. He's played 4 or 5 games. I'm a little bit hesitant to comment on those guys because, I'm still every now and then try to scratch myself and work out how some of our 4, 5, 6, 25 game players are household names, and everyone struggles to name the 23 game player or whatever it is from the Hawks and Geelong and that sort of stuff. But I get that's where we're at. Guy for he's good athlete. He can run. He wants to kick 3 goals in a quarter again. That'd be helpful.
Jack, can you use that last quarter?
Sorry, what was that?
Can you use that last quarter as a springboard?
Yeah, definitely. As I said before, it's the way that we played in that last quarter is the way that we've been training all along, and it's just a matter of us going out and doing that consistently. And you definitely take that confidence that we were able to come from behind and run out a game like we did going forward. And nothing changes at training though. We keep doing what we've been doing because we really believe that that's what's going to hold us in good stead in the future and make this club go forward. So in that regard, nothing changes, but you take confidence out of that.
All right, thanks. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.